Hello, welcome to BeCollaboration's podcast, Journey of Possibility. And I'm really thrilled today on International Women's Day to be joined by Gina Gardiner. Gina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here. Really excited.
Fantastic. So let's first of all find out a little bit about what attracted you to BeCollaboration and kind of what was the catalyst that kind of got you together, and then we'll then take it back to your journey at the beginning and how you started to be where you are today, really.
I'd heard about BeCollaboration for a couple of years through a member, Gavin, and he talked about how this was a network that wasn't a network, that it was around personal and, I would say, spiritual development, which I'm very interested in and is very much about the work that I do. And I was very attracted to the fact that this was about getting to know people, to be able to share, and for me, because I support an enormous number of people, it's important, I think, to fill yourself up. And this was an opportunity, I felt, to go and have a look and see whether or not BeCollaboration would give me an opportunity to share and to collaborate. But at the same time, it would be time for me.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of people say it's like their me time. Some people are one-man band, solopreneurs, as it were, and they go, this is the time I come out and I know that I'm going to be filled up with, it's the good vibe sensation, isn't it? The energy in the room is very much one of give me a hug, if you're having a bad day, there's a hug. If you're having a good day, there's a hug. If there's stuff you need to learn, it's there. You can ask the questions. If you need to be pushed, you can ask for that and somebody will challenge you on what you're doing. There is a space for it. So I can understand how already where you're supporting so many people, it's in your nature to want to support and help other people.
And that's given for me. That's who I am. Yeah,
exactly. So I can see why you're attracted to being in that environment. But for you to have other people go, how can I help? What can I do? So someone else is supporting you.
And also, having a conversation about the values, for example. I've done values work myself, and I've done values work with other people, over and over again. But it's interesting, isn't it, that when you talk about a value and other people bring up their ideas, sometimes you think, yeah, that's great, and other times you think, no, why do I think no?
Yes.
And for me, the power of language and the language that we use is almost everything. So we use these big words, but what does that mean in real terms, in terms of what we believe is the sort of essence of it, but also what behaviours do you need to experience or to demonstrate in order for that value to become live? Because otherwise it's just a word, isn't it?
Yeah. Even when you work out where it's come from and it shocks you, like, oh, I never realised that's the basis of the word, whether it's the Latin origin or, Greek definition or whatever. Going back to the core values, one of the discussions I always remember was when we were talking about collaboration. And somebody said harmony, and I'm like, and it was the first time it had come to me, having worked and researched and looked into it, and collaboration, you got so much collaboration, but all of a sudden the word harmony just went pew.
And I would agree that it is about harmony, but it's also having the confidence in the group to be able to be discordant and say, I don't agree with that.
Yes.
And that it's a safe place to do that, and people won't take it, I hope, personally.
No.
Actually, it gives them and you an opportunity to explore your beliefs and your map of the world in a safe environment, but where there is an element of challenge. And to be honest with you, Gill, I've been doing this stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
The vast majority of stuff is very, very familiar.
Yes. Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
And if it wasn't, I'd be a bit worried.
That's a good point.
Yeah. However, there's always a different take on it. And there was an example in yesterday's meeting. The lady whose name I've forgotten, which is really awful of me, was talking about a Danish word around, and this is my interpretation, of having an environment which engenders good health, good working together, hug out,
HYGGE, isn't it? Yeah.
And she used the word comfort. And it was an interesting one, because for me, comfort and getting too comfortable can have a different connotation. So whilst I absolutely agreed with the principle of what she was talking about, the language about being comfortable for me had some warning signs, because there are many people who want to stay in, and I'm sure that's not how she meant it.
No.
Not staying in our comfort zone, being challenged to, to have that significant professional grown-up conversation that is actually incredibly uncomfortable at times.
Yes.
But through that, you grow. And it's how do you do that in a constructive way that doesn't put people in a corner or make them feel lesser, but at the same time challenges their thinking. And I think the structure of BeCollaboration does that beautifully.
Thank you. That's really good to know. One of my takeouts when we had a meeting over in Surrey once was an 18-year-old. Was it Surrey? No, it was London. An 18-year-old was there, and he said afterwards, he said, I wish that school was more like this. And I thought, oh, that's really lovely. Why is that? He said, well, I didn't fear when I put my hand up, that anyone would ridicule me or anyone would think I was stupid, and I felt like I was being listened to.
And, people being listened to, being seen, truly seen, being validated. For me, that's a really important part of the work that I do, both with individuals and with the membership group that I've recently set up.
Yeah.
We live in a world which is fast-paced. People often have a better relationship with their screen than they do with their family. And I think it does. And I think more and more we need to be in a situation where we are aware of how important it is for us as individuals, but also that we have the capacity to nurture others. I don't believe in coincidence. I don't think it's any coincidence that we're talking on International Women's Day.
Yeah.
The traditional role for women is to nurture.
Yes.
Isn't it? I'm not saying men can't, because I believe they can very well. But the traditional role is that women will mother, will nurture, will support the growth. But I think that for me, part of that nurturing is providing a safe space where you can challenge. Because if you don't challenge people's thinking, their behaviour, their way of being in a constructive way, people stay stuck where they are.
Yeah.
And I know you coach, but we both come across people who are, have decades of life experience, but are still stuck in that emotional place.
Yeah.
Because nobody's challenged their childish behaviour. And I'm all for being childlike, awe and wonder.
Yes.
Actually, childish behaviour, I think, is something that we need to grow out of.
Yeah, because if people have been allowed to get away with it, they will continue, because that's what they feel works for them, and that's what they feel they should be, or it's a go-to resort when they can't get their own way. They go down the road of what's always worked for them, and as you say, that can be childish behaviour.
95% of what we think, what we say, what we do is habitual.
Yes.
It doesn't cross our conscious thought.
No.
We just do it because that's what we've done. And it's only when you're aware that you can actually say, I have a choice. I don't have to react in that way. And lots of people come to me and say, I'm having trouble with my mother-in-law or with my partner or my boss or colleagues or whoever. And, I want you to help me be able to change them. And I have to say, no, change the way in which you deal with them, which may create a change in them.
Yes.
But the only person you have total responsibility for is you. And so, looking at how you respond, looking at how you react to these people, make no mistake, a lot of it will be a habitual reaction that just, you get fire on top of fire on top of fire.
Yeah. We did have that once, actually, at a meeting when Erkan was illustrating people sometimes do this, and gave that kind of reaction. But he used somebody in the room as Fred, let's say, would sometimes does this and this, and it happened that he picked on the one person that did do that. So the one Fred in the room thought Erkan was having a go particularly at him, and he wasn't. He was just using it as an off the cuff remark that, you know, as an example. But because this actually hit the trigger, he immediately went oof, and you could see the kind of, how dare you listen, and everyone was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, and then at the end of it, when he'd kind of had time to realize that I'm in a safe space, I've reacted to something, everyone's looking at me like I'm mad, obviously I've taken something slightly wrong, and then we worked through it with him, and he was like, yeah, all right, I see what happened now, and he was able to do it. But I think in a lot of situations, had it not been a BeCollaboration space, he would have upped and left.
Yes,
because he was that cross over something that was a misunderstanding.
Or you can see, you know, in other situations, it would have ended up with an argument, and for some people, fisticuffs, for some people, violence, because the reaction has then triggered a chain reaction.
And all based, past-based. Habits.
It's difficult to bring it back. And so making people aware that, you know, once you're aware that 95% of what we do is habitual, and then you start to be aware of your patterns of behaviour, then you have a choice. Everything in life's a choice, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You choose not to choose, but that's still a choice, and every choice has consequences. And so giving people that opportunity to step back, as that guy did once he started to step back perspective, then he had different options. Most people don't take the time to step back.
No, that's true. And I think you've got to feel like you're in a safe space in order to do that for yourself. And if you're in the rat race, as you say, too much screen time, not good relationships, all you're preserving is yourself. It's like, you know, there's this fear out there that I can't move away from my habits because they're my security blanket, because that's who I know, that's who I am. And people don't understand that it's not who you are. It's just a habit that you've got yourself into. However, whether that be food or whatever the scenario that you might find for yourself.
Are you familiar with the principle of strong suits?
Yes,
So for those of you that are listening who might not be, a strong suit is when you're young, something happens and you create a way of dealing with that, and it works. And so something similar happens, so you use it again, and you use it again and again and again until it's your go-to place. And very often to the point of it being destructive.
Yes.
So I can give you a personal example.
Go for it.
I'm a recovering workaholic.
Why am I not surprised?
Not alk, I know.
No. It's all addiction, though. It's all addiction.
And one of the main reasons why I became a workaholic is I became significantly disabled, and we'll maybe have a chance to explore that a bit later. And I've lived with pain since 1983. And the one thing that makes a huge difference is if I'm interested in what I'm doing and I'm engaged in that, I turn the body off.
Yes.
And so I don't feel pain during my waking hours when I'm doing stuff. And when I was at work, and when I am at work, because of the way my work is organised, I'm not disabled at all. I use my brain, my mouth, you can tell that works, my hands, and so I don't have to face that I'm disabled. Now, I went on a course and they were doing values. This is going back years. And I'd done values any number of times. But I was doing my values again. And somebody said to me, do you know health isn't one of your top 10 values? And I hadn't noticed. And I didn't think it, when I started to review what I'd done, I thought, you know, I can hear myself saying, there's no decision to make in the morning. Doesn't matter how bad I feel. I'm going to get up because I know I'll feel better once I get engaged. And I didn't listen to my body, and I didn't listen to my body. And so my disability became greater. Now, who knows whether the disability would have got to where it was. But if I just say to you, I'd come out of hospital, I'd been in 8 weeks, I'd had a second failed back surgery, and I was back at school 4 days later. Now, if I'd stayed at home, if somebody hadn't left me out a cup and hadn't filled the kettle, I couldn't make a drink.
Oh, my goodness.
I
you were at work.
watch the telly, or I could read. At work, there was somebody else to make me a cup of coffee or reach down what I want, but I could run my school.
Yeah.
Which would you choose?
Yeah.
Because daytime telly doesn't do it for me.
Really? I'm sure some of it's lovely.
4 months later, the consultant said, we'll talk about you going back to school a couple of hours a week. I just laughed.
Oh, wow.
So my strong suit, which has been at many, many levels my salvation,
Yes.
also, if you allow it to take over to the point of being stupid about it, which on occasions I have been, it can be detrimental. And we've all got strong suits. Mine happens to be fairly extreme, and I have learned to deal with it. But it just gives people a feel for that.
It's absolutely, and it's awareness that's half the battle, isn't it? Once you're aware of it, and it kind of slaps you in the
if you're not aware, can you?
Yeah, exactly. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, I do that, don't I? And everyone around you goes, yes, you do. you can't see it for yourself.
To International Women's Day, I think one of the really common strong suits, and we may have more than one, that women, and I'm generalising, but I think they do it as an art form, is we put everybody else first. We try and be superwoman. And very often that hides an insecurity that I'm going to be found out for being a fraud. Or I've got to do everything perfectly because otherwise people will know that I'm no good and they have a poor sense of self-worth. And that strong suit actually in many ways helps them achieve, but at the same time it adds to burnout, to stress, to creating a situation where your kids don't help and your partner doesn't help because you need it done your way, because at least then you know it's done.
Yeah, I was that woman. Yeah, hands up.
And I think it's a really common pattern, and it starts for all, for very good reason, but actually it's destructive.
I think, I know, whilst it's internet, I agree, totally agree with what you just said, because I've been in that space as well when it's like, oh, for goodness sake, I'll do it, and you kind of make a martyr of yourself. But going back to International Women's Day, I think for me, gender is on a spectrum. So we all have feminine traits and masculine traits, and I know men who have gone through that imposter syndrome.
Absolutely, it is not unique.
Yeah.
I just think because of the role women have had,
and society has led us down that road, hasn't it? Absolutely.
And if you think, when I was a child, very, very few women went out to work if they had a family. In fact, if you were a teacher, you had to give up your teaching job.
Isn't that terrible? It's not that long ago, is it? In reality, kids today don't realise it. And in the 70s, you couldn't have your own credit card, could you? Was that in the UK or was that just America?
Your husband had to sign for you to have a credit card.
Bonkers. And it's in our lifetime. Crazy.
But women have taken on the work, but they've not let other things go. So they're trying to do it all.
Yes.
And I think whilst I absolutely accept that men also, you'll find plenty of men who are overwhelmed and who are trying to do it all and all of that. As a generality, I think that women have been put into a particularly challenging period of history, where you're trying to be the best mum in the world, the best partner in the world, and work and everything else, and it's really challenging.
I mean, there's that famous quote around probably in the 80s, in order to beat men at their own game, women have to be twice as good at this and this and this. Unfortunately, this isn't difficult. And it's like, on the one hand, you're like, yeah, women are great, fantastic. On the other hand, it's like, we're dividing ourselves. We're saying them and us, and it isn't them and us. We're all in it together.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go on.
I'm very excited about this because I think in many ways women's lib has done us a disservice, because I think that there were lots that needed to happen, but the disservice bit is that many women believe they have to behave like less hairy men.
Yes.
And actually, when both men and women have got masculine and feminine energy, and they are different.
Yeah.
The masculine energy, very logical, problem solving and so on.
Yep.
Feminine energy, creative, and we want to bring the best out of both energies in men and women. And for me, I think one of the challenges that we have as people, not men, or do you know there's 50 different categories of gender these days, which I read that last week.
Wow.
We won't go there.
That's for another podcast.
Yeah. But if you're stepping into your genuine power, and we were talking about this before we actually started recording, stepping into your genuine power means that you are the best version of you, but that doesn't mean that you have power and dominion over somebody else.
No,
exactly. Your power stands alone, and actually it encourages other people to step into the light and to be their powerful selves. And you look for, how do we use our time, our skills, our expertise in the best possible way for the good of everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And that for me is just so important.
I do think that, as you say, it's a time in history, isn't it, when women's lib, feminism, it seems, it went through a phase of being a dirty word. All of these things had to be as extreme as they were in order to achieve. Exactly. And it's the same as you look back at the suffragette movement and you think, oh, some of those women, planting bombs and setting fire to things, and they were breaking the law and it was terrible, but they were desperate and we had to do something. So I don't condone that, but at the same time I can understand it. And what they went through, being force-fed every time they were arrested, and all those kind of things that happened, is you kind of have to acknowledge that extremist behaviour sometimes has a place, providing, in my book, you're not actually harming other people. It's just, if you want to march or, demonstrate or do something, providing you're not harming anybody else, you've got to get your voice heard in any which way you can. And I know that over the years, probably looking back, it's a bit like the language we used amongst races, and people say, if you look at the 70s, everybody was racist. Well, I tell you, they probably still are now to a certain extent. But you kind of look back at those times, and they were of its time. So having to go through...
condone it, does it?
No, it doesn't condone it at all. But it's brought us to where we are today, and now we have to take that position that we have and build on it, but in a more positive, empowering way, without taking power away from anybody else, as you say. I think that is a really valuable way of looking at things. So many times men and women feel like they have to top, one over on the other, and it isn't. We're on this planet together. We've got to survive together. We've got to stop damaging each other and the planet. And if we're going to keep thinking of them and us, right and wrong, you or me, male and female, just polarizing everything.
And it's interesting how many people feel that they have to fight to be right.
Yes.
I think being right's highly overrated.
Oh my goodness, yeah, absolutely.
I think there are times, so if I've got a brain surgeon,
yes, I want him to be right.
If I've got a pilot flying the plane, there is a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it.
Yeah, I'd like it to be a woman though. No, I'm not.
But for the most part, when people get into the argy-bargy of making a stand, it's because they feel the need to be seen to be right. And I believe it says much more about their sense of self-esteem than it does about the argument itself.
Yeah.
And so I would say, choose your battles, only when it really actually makes a difference, when it's really important, fight that battle rather than fighting every battle. And it's perfectly acceptable to say, it's your opinion, I value your opinion, but it ain't mine.
Yeah, I mean, Erkan and I, people say, oh, how do you two get on? And Gill, how do you put up with him? And I'm sure people say to him, how do you put up with Gill? But the amount of times we go, let's agree to disagree. Okay. There's no animosity, no angst or upset. We don't live in that space of being upset with each other. It is just like, I can see where you're coming from, but it doesn't feel right for me. So I'm going to, okay, that's fine. You do it your way and I'll do it my way. Great. And we just carry on. It doesn't have to.
Sometimes the way forward is not to use, person A or person's B way, but to say, okay, let's find a third way, which actually is neither of our ways, but one that will work.
Solution.
and look for a win-win solution.
Yeah, and that's kind of the epitome of BeCollaboration, because we've always said our definition is collaboration is when 3 or more people get together, and it is a solution-focused environment. So rather go, here's the problem, let's solve it. It's like, well, what other things could come out of this? Let's discover, and you're all looking at it from your own perspective and your own specialism and your own personal history. And some amazing things have come out as a result of the work that people do together.
How often have you been in a situation where people have been sitting down, brainstorming or thought showering or whatever the drives me at the wall, but and people have come up with silly ideas that have then triggered an idea that's triggered the idea that works.
Yes, I love that.
And would not have happened unless somebody had talked about something that was so far removed in terms of the ordinary or what we were looking at. But it's triggered that way of thinking. And if you look at organisations like Google and Apple and so on, they've harnessed that.
Yes.
They've recognised that to be creative, people have got to feel safe to think outside the box and to actually silly, really, in order to move things forward. And that, for me, brings us back to the difference between childish and childlike.
Yes.
When you're childlike, you're curious. Very small children don't see the world from, am I going to get it wrong, or does my bum look big in my nappy? They just want to go ahead, don't they? And they'll try things. And if it doesn't work, well, they try it again a different way until it does. And we lose that, I think. And I think it's a huge shame.
We can blame all sorts of reasons for losing it, but it does kind of point to the education system of, when you're in a class at the age of 4, which breaks my heart, and you're sat at a desk and you have to do things at a certain time and go at a certain place and hit a certain target at 4. It's just, that's why, you and I both have teaching backgrounds, so it kind of is no surprise that we kind of hit a ceiling, I think, and thought, well, there must be an easier way to share what we want to share without the restrictions of the
my sadness is I thought it was the best job in the world, but I'm very pleased to be out of it now.
It's sad, isn't it?
And I think the joy of learning, which is a lifelong thing, the curiosity, you can get high standards without making it so linear and so narrow and stilted.
Can't keep ticking boxes all the time.
And I don't think it's any surprise that, a third of young people now are talking about being stressed, many of them on antidepressants, which the doctors know don't work. I think there is so much going on that needs to be dealt with.
It's tragic. So tell us your now we've just touched upon your past in the teaching environment. Just bring us up to speed. How did you get to where you are now?
Right, I started teaching and I was very quickly promoted to be a deputy head of a large primary school. It was 1982, and when I went to the school, the head said to me, we don't want you, we want a man, because we need somebody to do football.
Really? That narrow-minded? Oh, wow.
So anyway, I was given an interview, and on the day of the interview, we don't want you, and if there is a man your equal, he will get it. Anyway, I got the job, and I was promoted to be the catalyst for change, because the school, I was the youngest bar 2 on the staff. I was 28, and I was the youngest bar 2.
Wow.
And between September and February, we worked very hard on identifying and planning the way forward. Went off skiing in the February half term. Very pleased to be going off. I love skiing. And I'd had a new pair of skis for Christmas. And in those days, the fashion was to have longer skis. Right. So the man in the shop had convinced me to have an extra 10 centimetres, which I then proceeded to wrap around my neck on several occasions during the week because I kept on crossing my skis and falling over. On the Thursday, I had a really bad fall, and I said to the people I was skiing with, I'm going to go off tomorrow morning. I'm just going to poddle about, get my confidence back. I'll meet you for lunch. And they said, we've found a fabulous new run. Come with us. So we went off on the chairlift. It was one of those beautiful days, bright, bright sunshine. The mountains looked magnificent. And we got off the ski lift and I followed them. They went round a corner and in front of us was the Shindergratz, which is the most difficult black run in St Anton. About 800 feet straight down with full of moguls. Now, for those who don't ski, a mogul is where the elements carve the ice and snow. And there can be a couple of inches, but these were 6 foot. And so you had a slope with bump after bump after bump going down.
Yeah.
So if you skied across, you had to ski in between the bump and then turn on a bump to come back down and do that. I'd done about a third. I'd done black runs before, but I'd done about a third and I'd left it too long and I'd gone into the powder snow and I'd fallen. I'd lost a ski. And it took me about 20 minutes to ski down to the party who were sitting below. They were all sitting like elves on a mushroom. Took my skis off, sat, we were just talking. It's a very hot day and the top of the mogul gave way. And I fell about 150, 200 feet. There was nowhere to land, knocked myself out and came to about 2/3 of the way down this black run. Took them a long time to ski to me. I was determined not to have the blood wagon. My mum used to say bloody minded. I think stubborn, Anyway, I managed to get down to the hotel. Was in a bit of a state, but we were travelling home the next day, and I went straight to A&E. I'd got a concussion, and I'd trapped a nerve in my neck.
Lucky that was all. I'd imagine you'd have had a lot more.
If I'd had my skis on or I hadn't knocked myself out, I probably would have either broken my neck or killed myself.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I got back to school, and 5 weeks after the original accident, I was a deputy leader on the borough ski party, and we were taking 56 10 and 11-year-olds skiing. Ooh. And I was given permission by the medics to go because we had a doctor with us.
Right.
But as the week went on, I became more and more like Quasimodo.
Yeah.
And on the last evening, I said to my colleagues, I've got to go and lie down. And I went up and lay on the top bunk. I'm not quite sure how I got up there. And I suddenly found that I was paralysed down one side.
Oh, wow.
Didn't want to shout and frighten the children, waited till somebody came, and then it was all pandemonium and I was carted off to hospital. And really, my health has never been the same. So I was several days in hospital and then airlifted home. And over the next few weeks, I managed to get over it. Enough to go back to school, bearing in mind my work ethic.
Yeah.
Managed to get to the summer holidays, was very pleased to get there, thinking I've got 6 weeks to really rest.
Yeah.
On the 8th of August, I got a phone call to say that John Hughes, my lovely head, had suddenly died in his sleep. And I was acting head.
Oh.
And 4 months later, I was appointed as permanent head to the school.
Gosh.
And I was determined throughout I was there for 21 years. I was determined that my physical situation should not impact negatively. Now, over the first few years, things deteriorated. My mobility got worse. I kept on going into hospital. They would try things and they wouldn't work. And eventually I ended up with a 4-month stint in hospital with an experimental drug therapy that hadn't worked. Now, the day before I went in, it was a summer holiday, and I'd gone to Wisley, the gardens with friends.
Yeah.
And I'd managed to get from the car park to the kiosk. And there was the possibility of hiring a wheelchair to go around the gardens. But I wouldn't. I was so pig-headed. I sat in the car park waiting while they all went round. But by the time I came out of hospital, I had no choice. I had to use a wheelchair. And for me, it was a really big lesson, because we so often think, what will other people think? What will they think of me? Will they think less of me? And I was really worried about what would the children do when I came to school in a wheelchair? What would the parents do? Kids didn't bat an eyelid.
No.
Parents were absolutely fine. And the staff only wanted to borrow my wheelchair to do wheelies around the hall. Big lessons.
Yeah, can imagine.
So I then decided to keep away from doctors. But in 96, I sneezed and ruptured a disc. I had failed back surgery syndrome. and became completely wheelchair bound. Then it took me 18 months to walk to the bottom of the garden after lots of nerve blocks and things. And then I was sick and I ruptured another disc, and I was completely wheelchair bound until 2004, when I had an internal spinal stimulator fitted. So I can now walk short distances, but I still need to use the chair. Now, there was a huge gift in all of this.
Of course, yeah.
And the gift was I couldn't physically get into most of my classrooms in the wheelchair. It's too big. And even if you could get through the door, you couldn't get round. And I was determined that I wanted the children to have the best possible education that we could give them. And I wanted the staff to want to learn and to be happy. And the gift was that I developed, and it didn't happen sequentially and structurally, it was a bit like serendipity, but I developed an approach to empowering other people and enabling them to step into taking responsibility for their own performance, to understand what excellence looked like in the context of the school, and unpicking that language which enabled people to take responsibility.
Wow.
The school was very successful. It was on the 100 best schools in the country while I was head.
Lovely.
We became a beacon school, and I worked in a whole variety of jobs outside school to bring a budget into school to keep at the cutting edge. But what was happening is my health was deteriorating.
Of course, yeah.
And in 2004, I was given an ultimatum. Either stop working a 15-hour day, 5.5 days a week, or you'll be not able to drive because I had hand controls. You'll be housebound.
Oh.
And so I made the really difficult decision in 2004 that I was going to go. And my leaving coincided with having the spinal stimulator fitted.
Right.
I applied for early retirement, thinking it was going to take months, which is the usual thing. And I got a response in 4 days.
Oh, wow.
And so they agreed that I could stay till half term, but I had the spinal stimulator fitted. It was very poorly. And by the time I came out of hospital, I was already retired. So then I thought, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I was by that time I was a qualified coach mentor. I'd worked for the National College of Leadership, the London Institute, the government, developing leadership in a whole variety of guises. And so I thought, right, well, I'm going to use that expertise. I took myself off to do a research project across different industries to look at leadership and what were the issues facing them. Wrote my first couple of books to become my calling card, to give me credibility. And then for the first few years, I worked with corporates doing mainly leadership development and coaching. By this time, I started to do some work for Essex University Business School, lecturing. And then the recession happened. And in a week, I lost all my contracts.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow. The
budget's
businesses had slashed their budgets.
Yeah.
And I'd started to work with small businesses. And so I expanded that. I've always done life coaching. Even when I was ahead, I've always done couple coaching. And I started to work with small businesses strategically, helping them get the best out of themselves and others. Yeah. And I still do that to this day. But I had a very strong sense that I needed to do more. When I was ahead, I felt truly fulfilled. I felt this burning thing my purpose was something to get to more people, because people were, if anything, the situation was deteriorating in terms of the how people were feeling.
Yeah. And
so I started Genuinely You, which is an online thing. There's a personal and spiritual development program with a membership group called the Thrive Together Tribe. And I'm just putting the finishing touches to a leadership program which incorporates the personal and spiritual development, but also looks at leadership in a different way, looks at it as an enlightened leader, as a conscious leader. Wow. How you can lead yourself and lead others in a different way to the way we have at the moment. So I'm sorry that was a bit long-winded.
No, it was fascinating. I know you've told me a lot of that before, but it's interesting to hear the chronological order of how it's come about, and just to kind of understand your grim determination to do what you knew you had to do or you wanted to do. I mean, most people, and I say this advisedly. Most people would have gone, oh, well, can't do that now. I'll have to go and do this. But you didn't. You went, okay, I'm out of hospital. Well, I'm going to do that. And you went off and you did it. And it's like, I get the impression that if somebody says to you, oh, no, you can't do that, you have to prove them wrong.
I think that's part of it. But I think the other part of it, if I'm being really honest with myself, the alternative to getting on and doing was sitting at home. How's that happened when I've turned the phone off? I have no idea. Sorry about that. It should go off in a minute. I do apologise.
Okay, no worries. It's live, folks.
The phone is in my front room, turned off. There you go.
Sorry.
The alternative is too awful. The alternative is to sit and be disabled.
Yeah.
Is to sit and have daytime television, to be able to read a book, and to be isolated and not doing what I believe I'm here to do, not to live my purpose.
So your mission in life is very much, I liken it to the determination of what first flashed up for me, the 2012 Olympics, with the Paralympics that followed. And you look at these people and you think, well, I can't even do half of that, and I've got 4 functioning limbs, and they're doing, oh my goodness. And it all came about after they became disabled. And it's like they have this drive in them that is really something that's so strong that failure isn't an option. And I get that from you. You might not want to be an Olympian, but you kind of go...
It's being true to who you are, isn't it? And you see, I think disability is a metaphor for life.
Yeah.
All right, people diss their ability. They say, I'm not good enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm too tall, too short, too fat, I'm not enough.
Yeah.
And they carry that disability. How many people do you know who get in first to say, I'm no good at that, before somebody else can?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Or they qualify. One of the things, I'm quite good. And you say to them, well, what actually, if it was somebody else, would you say quite good or good?
Yeah.
But you qualify it partly so people don't expect too much of you. Partly because, particularly in England, the UK, we don't want to be seen as arrogant and boastful.
We're very self-deprecating, aren't we? It's straight in there.
In the States, very different.
Yes.
Very good at telling you how good they are.
Yeah, there must be a middle ground, because sometimes the extreme of being I'm amazing, you're like, oh really, okay, you might say that, but and we're the other one, oh no, it's nothing, don't worry about me. There's got to be that middle ground where actually just be honest, just.
With my disability, I get in my wheelchair, it's always on fast, and I wheel away. Okay, and I think that I believe life life is about learning. It's one of the things that motivates me is about learning. I mean, as a teacher, I'm sure it's very similar for you, and contribution is also very important to me. But actually, the disability for me, and when I talk about it being a gift, that doesn't mean there haven't been some days which were fairly bloody.
Yes, I'm sure.
But there has been a huge gift. I was always doing everything at such breakneck speed. I was, a very goal-oriented, and I recognise that what I've learned to do is to sit, to observe, to give myself the space to use my intuition in a way that I would never have done. I'd like to think I would have done, but actually I know myself too well to know I was too busy being busy. I am the consummate human doing, when actually I need to be more of a human being. And if it wasn't the accident, I've no doubt, for some people it's a heart attack, or it's redundancy, or it's a breakup of a relationship. I think for many of us, we have to have a crisis in order to review our lives and what we're doing about it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
And how many people have you come across who, at the time, it's devastating, and then a few years later they say it's the best thing that happened?
Well, I remember my nan, who died at the ripe old age of 97, always used to say, no matter what goes on in your life, now bearing in mind she had 12 children, and all of them went off to war, and all of them came back.
Blimey.
I know, amazing. All the girls as well as the boys went in uniform. But she always says, no matter what your situation is, you look for the silver lining.
Yeah.
Says, and sometimes it's really hard to find it, but it is there.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of, whatever you've got, it's the American expression, isn't it? If life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Is finding a way around the gift that you've been given. It's the learning that you get from the experience. And a lot of people come to religion, don't they, through some disaster, and then they find God or their spirituality.
In terms of spirituality or religion or whatever.
Yeah. So you were talking to me earlier about your spiritual development. If you've been a doing person all the time and now you're a being person,
well, I'm working towards being a being person.
We're all working towards. We're all on that journey, aren't we? What's your spiritual life like now? What is your search about?
For me, to start with, it was about finding my purpose.
Yeah,
having that sense of there is more to being here than just
existence,
dawdling about.
Yeah.
So what is my purpose? And I think that's a big part of my spirituality. I believe that we're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
That if by being kind to somebody, it's if the butterfly flaps its wings in South America, it causes a typhoon. And although that's a very graphic way, I think one of the things that overwhelms so many people is they look at and listen to the news and think, what can I do? Yeah. But I believe that each of us, in every action that we take or lack thereof, every word that we speak, we have the capacity to be positive, neutral, or neutral, negative. And I would like to think that I am consciously looking for the opportunity to make a positive difference in whatever I do.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I'm goody two-shoes, because there are times when I get it very badly wrong. But that's what I work towards. I also believe that it's hard to explain, really. I believe that when we're small children, we're very connected to source, whatever you decide source might be. And for some, that would be the universe. For others, that would be God. For some, that would be Jesus or Allah, whoever.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the joy that little kids have, they're stepping in a puddle, or they've got a leaf and they're looking at it as if it's the most amazing jewel.
Yeah, which it is.
I think for whatever reason, we lose that. Yeah. And for me, my spirituality is about trying to capture that. And even in the most mundane things, finding there is something of awe and wonder in it. And I'm reminded of a story that I was on a course with Tiney. I've done a lot of his courses. People may not be familiar with him, but he's probably the most well-known motivational speaker and trainer in the world. Yeah. If you want to be coached by him, it's £1 million a year.
Is it really? I didn't know that. Oh, well, I'll start saving my pennies.
Yeah. But I went very cynically. I'd done my NLP training and NLP coaching with one organisation, and I wanted to go and try it out and see as many people as possible. And I went thinking, this great big American, he's 6'7" and a bit. It's all going to be hype. Right. And what I recognised when I went, actually, there was a huge amount of substance to what he was saying. And he told the story that he went off to an ashram in India, and he went for 3 weeks, and the deal was that you worked for 6 hours a day, and then you got your board and keep and your spiritual teaching free. And so on day one, he was put in this tiny hut where he had to be, bending down, washing up, and they deal with about 1 million people in a week. So lots of washing up. They're all fed. And he banged about, and he was cross and very hot and miserable. And he took himself off to his bed, which was probably about 2 foot too short, with his legs hanging. And he said, I've got a choice to make here. I've got 3 weeks here. I can be miserable and be fed up about the fact that, who am I? How dare they make me wash up? And it's uncomfortable and it's hot. And he made the decision that I'm going to be the best washer-upper they've ever had, and I'm going to make the day for everybody as good as I can. And off he toddled the next day, and he got them singing and laughing and doing the washing up. And he said it was a brilliant 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I chose to see and to approach that in a different way.
Mm.
And for me, you know, that whatever you're doing, be the best that you can.
Absolutely, yeah.
And even if it's the washing up, you know, you've got hot water, you've got washing up liquid. Somebody in the middle of the Saharan desert would give their eye teeth for that.
Of course.
And yet on the happiness stakes, people who are in these small communities generally do better than we do in the Western world.
Oh, every time.
And I'm struck by, you know, the Blue Planet program. You know, we think we can't affect a change. And yet when people saw those whales and those dolphins being maimed and killed by plastic, there's little groups who've started all over the place doing their little bit to make a difference.
Yeah.
And enough people do their little bit to make a difference, it becomes a big difference. A bigger
Absolutely. I think that's part of today's culture, is we're led to believe that we're impotent and we can't make a difference, and that the world is ruled by a few people that have got all the money and all the answers, and everything's predicated on them and making their life better and their life richer, which is why the divide between those that have and those that haven't is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. When Erkan and I first started this, there was an Oxfam stat that went out to say that there was, if you put a busload of the richest, if you filled a bus with the richest people in the world, they would have more wealth than over half the population. And then the following year it went down to 64 people, and then it went down, and now I think it's like three or four together have more combined wealth than 3.65 billion people. And it's like, on what planet is that okay? And I'm always reminded of the Ricardo Semler quote. You know, have you seen him on a TED talk?
Yes.
Just the man is amazing. I love his idea around business and how he runs his businesses and the schools that he's trying to set up. But one of the quotes he said on the TED talk was, when people say to me, I've earned all this wonderful wealth and it's time for me to give back, I say to them, you took too much in the first place. And it's like, so we should all be, everyone from the top down to the bottom. And it's a biblical story as well, isn't it? The old lady that gave tuppence, and the rich man that gave 2 sacks of coins, and he derided her for only giving tuppence. And Jesus said, she's given more wealth than you will ever have in your lifetime, because that's all she had, and she'd given it over. So I think you're right. I think knowing that humanity is joined and are responsible for each other, and it's like we say in BeCollaboration, love, connection and abundance. If we were to work on that as our culture, knowing that love connects us all, there is abundance in the world, there's plenty of everything to go around, we just need to share it. We have a distribution problem. And connection, you know, if you hurt someone sitting next to you, that reverberates around the world. If somebody somewhere is getting hurt, it should be affecting all of us. So we should be working towards peace, and we should be working towards not getting upset when someone cuts you up in a car. You know, spreading all of that kind of negative energy, as you were saying, it's not going to help anybody. So it's paying forward the positive at every opportunity.
Have you heard of subtle activism?
Of what?
Subtle.
No. Oh, I like the sound of that though. That's good. Subtle. I'm going to write that down.
Taggart. She set up an experiment where she asked people to meditate with a very, very specific focus over a 24-hour period. So nobody did more than a couple of hours.
Right.
Most people did much less. But over the 24 hours, there were thousands of people involved. And the focus was Chicago and gangs.
Ah, right.
Now, they said nothing, but when the statistics came out, the police said, we can't understand it. There's been less violence, less murders, less gang incidents on this day. Why? We don't know. And it was the day when everybody was focusing and sending messages energetically in terms of wanting peace and wanting things to be better. And the other thing that strikes me is they've done experiments with water, where you look at water, if it's in a situation which is neither negative or positive, the crystals are in a certain way. What goes into an environment where people are shouting and arguing and being nasty, then the actual molecules, the crystals within the water, the formulation of that changes and becomes jagged and uneven. put them into a place of harmony, and every crystallized shape is perfectly aligned and symmetrical.
Yeah, it's lovely,
There's
isn't it?
20+% water.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. They did a similar experiment with plants, didn't they? Where they put them into 2 glass containers, and one plant was abused for like 7 days, and the other plant was like just verbally, and the other plant was verbally loved, and the one that was abused just shriveled up, and the one that was loved just grew. And it's like, to imagine a child being in an environment where the parents are arguing all the time, or just the whole energy is in this kind of, they're not getting on, and there's that kind of angst and the upset that's around this. Have you come across Richard Hawkins? Is it Hawkins or Dawkins? Hawkins. I always get muddled up. And he talks about emotions and being at a certain level, whereby sort of the lowest vibration is grief and bereavement, and I can't remember what the other one was. There's another one that's really a low vibration, and obviously a high vibration is like infinite joy. And how people think they've got to go from depressed up to happiness straight away, and actually it's a lot of steps that you just keep going through. So it's look around you and see what's just going to get you to the next step. So you might be in grief at the moment, and you think, well, actually, and we all know you go through stages of bereavement, don't you? So it's from grief you kind of go, well, rather than being grieving about something, I'll get angry. But that's a vibration up towards getting into a better state. There is a tipping point whereby the emotions of a nation can tip into happiness more so. And Andrew Horder was looking into this, and he worked out that if the culture of BeCollaboration were to grow to numbers of something like 834,
it's not very big, is it?
No. And just that blew my mind. It was like we could do that. That is so doable. If our culture of love, connection, and abundance can be multiplied to 834 people in the UK, then we've got exponential growth, because it goes huge. And all of a sudden you've got a whole different way of looking at life. And then if we could then impart that onto other nations and spread the word, and then my dream is to put a BeCollaboration group into every school. Wouldn't that be cool? Where you could you could empower those kids to think for themselves, to be able to challenge each other without getting upset, to be able to ask questions without thinking they're going to be ridiculed, to start projects together and follow and work out what their purpose is and work out what their dream is.
I think it was very powerful.
It would be amazing, wouldn't it? So, anyway, it's on my list.
Let's re-language it. It won't be, it will be.
Yes. Well, when I say it's my dream, for me personally, if I can visualize something, it will happen. It isn't. Most of the things I visualized in my life have come true, and it's not because, oh, aren't I lucky? It's because I've worked damn hard and I make it happen. So I can visualize this already. And we've got over in Surrey, Dave Caldwell is already working with schools, and he's going in and doing different workshops and things. So in my mind, I haven't told you this yet, Dave, but you're a hop, skip and a jump away to have the first school BeCollaboration meeting. Because if every BeCollaboration group in a town, you only need 6 people to be on a rota, and then once a month they go and host the kids group or the young persons group. And it wouldn't take long. It's a privilege to be able to go into a school and support them. And that's one of the when I started as a coach, that's one of the first things I did, as I went into a sixth form school and helped kids. And I did a stress busting club, and it was great. They loved it, absolutely loved it. But it was just so heartbreaking for me, because they were 16 to 18-year-olds, they were so stressed with their exams. I'm like, so why are you doing the exam? They're like, what do you mean? So why have you chosen this exam? Oh, my mum told me to. Oh, my dad thinks it's a good idea for a job. Do you enjoy it? Not really. Do you want to go to uni? Not really. Or, well, if I go to uni, I'd really rather do drama, but nobody wants me to do that, so I've got to go and do accounts. Like, it's just so sad. And no wonder they're stressed, because they're doing something they don't love.
Yeah.
They don't enjoy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress slightly. So I like the idea of your spiritual development / vision. You're finding your purpose, isn't it? Once you know what your destiny is and why you're here on the planet, all of a sudden you can roll your sleeves up.
It fits into place, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's like that missing piece of the jigsaw. And I don't believe, we had a podcast with Andrew Horder the other day, and he was saying that he doesn't believe if you do what you love, the business will come alongside. He said, you've got to be cleverer than that. It isn't just go off and do what you love and by accident the business comes. You've still got to create it, and you've still got to market it and do all the other things. But if you can make that your living, then
it's not
best
then
job ever.
It's playing.
Exactly. So tell us about your book that you've just written. We've only got about 5 minutes left before we kind of come to a conclusion. But before we do that, I'd love to have a chat about your book. I say book. Look, we've got Gina has written several beautiful books. To be honest, I haven't read all of them yet. But you know what? I have them here, and they are on my little list of things to do. But this is the one in particular that you...
Thriving and Surviving, the 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success and Fulfillment. Okay. And it tells a bit of my story, but it's actually the principles really for creating a life full of happiness and fulfillment. And you can get a free digital download on the website, genuinely-u.com. There's also a free TV series that people can sign up for. It looks at some of the themes in more detail. There's 13 episodes that people want to tap into those. But if people prefer that, you can buy a paperback or a hardback or an audio. But all of those are available on the website, which is genuinely, and then a little hyphen, and then the word you.com.
Lovely.
And for me, wherever people have come from, whether they're business clients or relationship, or whether it's personal coaching, they may come through lack of confidence, lack of self-belief, or the relationship's not working well, or they're not achieving or maintaining the success they want, or they're sabotaging, or they're not dealing with change and transition very well, or they can't find their purpose. Wherever they come through, they actually need to look at all of those.
Yeah.
Hence the very wordy title.
Yeah, but it does what it says on the tin, so to speak, doesn't it? It's exactly what you need. So where's your future, Gina? Where do you see yourself heading, and what's your ambition?
To positively impact on 1 million people in the next 5 years.
1 million? Wow, that's not
not necessarily all one-on-one, but if I impact on you, you will impact on your people. So like a pebble in the pond.
Lovely.
And doing that through the Genuinely You, through the membership group, through it's all about you coaching program, the leadership program. So there's lots of strands that people can engage with. There's loads of free stuff on the website. If people are interested, for example, there's a genuine chat on hope and optimism. There's I think something like 80 different genuine chat podcasts now available. There are articles, there are videos, there's all sorts there.
You've been a busy woman, haven't you?
Busy. And I just had it's being finalised now, a membership platform which will make it easy to navigate. There's also
lovely.
a Genuinely You app that people can get for free, so that on the run they can access the resources.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
So, been a busy bee. I don't take any credit for the technology. Somebody else has done that.
Oh well, you can't be brilliant at everything.
I know my limitations.
There's a lot to learn with technology, isn't there? So yeah, I don't blame you for outsourcing that little baby. Have we got you lined up for a Know and Be Known shortly? If people want to come
June, I think.
So if people want to come and see you in the flesh,
yes,
they can come along to a BeCollaboration meeting. Is that the Essex one or the?
That's one, but I would at some point like to perhaps come and do it in London.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get that organised. I think it might be useful for you as well to connect up with the new group that we're launching over at Park Royal. Yes. So we're launching that on the 3rd of April. Please go and see the website or the platform for details around that. And obviously there's different collaborators are having different know and be known. So it's kind of like what Gina has just spoken to you about today. They're actually standing in front of the room and sharing some of their best bits, so to speak. They're letting you know some knowledge, some experience, so that you can take it away and use it for yourself in order to support your business or your life going forward. So I'm sure we'll have to get Gina. I'm sure you're down for Hertford as well. I don't know. We'll have to work that one out.
Check that one out. Make sure it's in the diary.
Yeah, I've got you written down somewhere. I don't have it in front of me, but it'll be lovely to. If anybody would like to come and meet Gina, she's going to be at a BeCollaboration meeting soon. You can book yourself on. There's the Essex one, which is her regular slot, Hertford, London, or indeed Surrey. Maybe one day we'll get you all the way over to there to do little spot as well. It's
That
been
would be
really lovely talking to you, Gina. I'm
Thank you.
fascinated by your grim determination and your kind of, what's the word? I know the work ethic, because that's in a lot of women. Get your sleeves rolled up and get stuff done.
Yeah.
And I've seen that a lot in BeCollaboration ladies as well. Quite often you find like, oh, who did that? Who did that? Oh, it was another woman. That was another woman. Not that I'm being sexist at all.
No, not at all.
But it's just so amazing that knowing the journey that you've had with all the accidents and the upset and you haven't missed a beat. You've just kept on going, doing what you've wanted to do. So I have no doubt that whatever you choose to do in the future, you're going to make a massive success of it. And I feel privileged to have you in our community and to have access to you and what you know. And for any of our collaborators that are watching this, please make sure you check Gina's website out and connect on with her on the platform as well, and just start a conversation, because I'm sure even like you've heard today, there'll be things that she said today that you go, oh, okay, I hadn't thought about that. Interesting.
That's brilliant.
Full of fascinating information.
Very much indeed. You take
lovely.
care. And thanks for people who are listening. That's brilliant.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gina. See you next time.
Bye.